To order, please. It is 7:01. May we please stand to the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 27th Committee of the Whole meeting of the Milford Board of Education. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Ms. Lemay?
Megan Doyle.
Here.
Scott Fermenter.
Present.
Nicole Flowers.
Here.
Tracy Irby.
Here.
Tom Koba.
Here.
Christy Pre.
Here.
Adam Scobie.
Here.
Mike Smith.
Mr. Smith asked to be excused. He's out of town.
Cindy Wolf-Boyton.
Ms. Wolf-Boyton asked to be excused. She had a work conflict.
Okay. And Susan Glennon.
Present.
All right, we have 8 members present.
Thank you. All right, for your information, board members, if there's no objection, we are going to flip athletic program report with transportation, so that athletic program report will go as number 4 on the agenda, and transportation will go as number 5. Any objections to that? All right, seeing none, I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Kutaya for our presentations this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Glennon and members of the Board of Education. I am here with you this evening with my co-presenter, Mr. Nielsen, who is online, is just unable to join us here physically, but will be here to primarily take some questions if they arise at the end of the presentation. So this evening we are discussing with you what we believe is the next level of work in the area of safety and security for the Milford Public Schools. If you were on the board back in February, we did already start this conversation. Annually in February, Mr. Nielsen and a team representative from the Milford Police Department come before you and give you a report on how we're doing with the implementation of our safety and security measures. It is also a commitment of this board to ensure that our schools are safe and secure for all students and staff. At the time in February of 25, we shared with this board that we feel like we're in a really good place with safety and security. That in some areas we are looked at as exemplars or leaders of the pack when it comes to this area. And this certainly is one area we're proud to be leaders of the pack in. You asked us, so what's next? Are there other areas where there may be vulnerabilities or gaps or even new technologies? We committed to you at that time that we would take some R&D time, that we would work with partners either locally or across the state and bring to you what that next level of work is. And because we have a sort of an understanding that we don't present new items in full by content for the first time in front of our board during the budget process, we are here with you this evening to share with you our findings and what you likely will see during the budget process in more of a numerical quantitative representation. So this evening we're going to be talking about the School Security Officer Program, specifically for our elementary schools and for the academy. There are 3 key parts to this presentation. We'll be providing you with an introduction and the key elements of what the program would look like at our elementary schools and the academy. We will share with you what our goals are in order to put this in place. What are we trying to achieve? And then we will go through the framework or the details of what would that look like operationally on the ground here in our schools. So let's get started with the program introduction. So we recognize that the importance that's already established here of a safe and secure program that continues to organically grow. I've already made the case for that. We also pride ourselves that there is not just one approach to safety and security. There are multiple levels, multiple partners, multiple plans, multiple approaches to ensure that our students, our staff, and visitors are safe while they are on the ground in our facilities on our campuses. In order to expand that, we are proposing an armed school security officer. The difference here, there will be a difference between the armed school security officer and an armed school resource officer. I will go through that in detail. So obviously, our number one goal is to keep students and staff safe. In order to continue to achieve that goal, we propose one full-time armed school security officer at each elementary, so that would be 8. One at the academy. The academy does not have a full-time armed guard. The academy has an SRO that visits occasionally throughout the week. We're also hoping to establish and maintain some visible presence as a deterrent. We'll talk a little bit more about the preventative and responsive nature of this approach. We also want to provide immediate response in the case of need. Now, Mr. Nielsen has been before you. A question about what are we doing at the elementary schools has come up before in the past, even in my time here. And we know that we have school resource officers nearby. And the response time would be short, but imagine having someone on campus who is armed. That expedites the response to the in the event of a crisis. And another objective of our program here is to establish an individual school liaison role by school with local emergency officials, so that our emergency officials in our community have a go-to person for every school campus, as opposed to shared. So let's do a little side-by-side comparison of an SSO to an SRO. Let's stick to the SSO first. The SSO is a retired former law enforcement officer. This is someone that comes with significant level of training. They have been a police officer. We'll go into the qualifications in just a moment. They've had extensive experience and a certain level of skills. They are focused on safety security. They will be assigned to a specific school. They are employed by Milford Public Schools. That's a distinct difference. And they will be assigned to elementary schools and the academy. Different than and similar to the SRO. The SRO is a current law enforcement officer, currently wearing the badge and working the job. They also have extensive experience and skill set. They are also focused on safety and security. They also are assigned to a specific school, but they are employed by the police department. And they are at our 3 middle schools and 2 high schools. So let's talk about each element of the framework here. So we would work with the Milford Police Department, and I do need to pause at this moment and state that we have met with Chief of Police here in Milford and our liaison, Captain Del Monte, and they are in full support of this proposal this evening. They regret that they can't be here this evening, but they are in support of providing additional level of safety and security by proposing an SSO at each elementary school in the academy. Therefore, they would work closely with us. They would work on developing a job description. They would be essential at the table for the hiring process. They would help us develop operational and administrative procedures. They would help us not only develop but implement the training program, and they would help us implement that, and they would help us understand how we can, at the end of each year, evaluate the effectiveness of the SSO program.
Dr. Kuchaya, did you miss the slide framework of the program, or did I follow?
I just said let's review the elements of the framework and let's move forward.
Okay.
But thank you, yes. So that outlines like the items that are coming up. Okay, sorry. Qualifications. So there are some specified qualifications that we will be looking at. They must have excellent integrity and demonstrate good moral character initiative. some of those dispositions that we were looking at in the individual. And while the state statute requires a 10-year prior experience level, we had an internal discussion and thought we want someone with more experience. So we would be looking for someone with at least 15 years of prior experience as a sworn law enforcement officer with an organized local police department or the Division of State Police within the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. And they must provide positive references from each prior employer served in a law enforcement capacity. Now please note that the 10-year statute is part of the federal law that allows for SSOs to be in schools. And the federal and state law also represents who can carry who can carry a gun and who can work in a school specifically armed. So there is state and federal statute that dictates and outlines who can carry a gun and who can carry a gun on school property and can work on school property with a gun. The statutes are cited there, U.S. Federal Code 18-926C and Connecticut State Statute 10-244A. And of course, we would conduct an extensive background investigation. In the area of training, we would include some of these items on this list, but also are open to other items that may come up as we develop the program. Specifically, we would train on an annual basis an armed school security officer training pursuant and aligned to this state statute, as well as the annual firearms training provided by a certified firearms instructor that meets or exceeds the standards of the Police Officers Standards and Training Council that is outlined by that statute. Please know that that training will come specifically from the Milford Police Department. We don't have that capacity here. And we know that there are school districts in the state of Connecticut that do have armed guards. And in fact, Mr. Nielsen, in doing the research for this presentation, made connections with those individuals and learned a lot, and will continue to work with those individuals as we build our program. And we will work with them and possibly collaborate on the training. We will extend our active aggressive training that we already do with staff members to these to our SSOs. We would provide them with first aid, CPR, and AED training, mental health training, and any other professional development that we deem necessary as they engage with our students and staff members. So you may be wondering, what would an SSO look like? Since they are not police officers, we would require some type of uniform, some standardized way of dressing. So we thought that we would have these individuals identified with a distinct colored polo shirt that specifically says school security officer, maybe a khaki pant. We might be open to black or navy, but everything must be uniform. A traffic vest for when working outdoors and assisting with drop-off and pickup. Common jackets identify themselves as security. We would standardize the firearms and the holsters that are purchased for them. We would provide them with the necessary belt and ammunition holders that go with it. Please know that these items would all be purchased by Milford Public Schools, but in collaboration with MPD. So you may have some questions about the firearms. Firearms and related equipment will be issued and maintained by the Milford Police Department. And please know that firearms and related equipment will not be stored on school property at the end of each day. All firearms, ammunition, etc. will be stored at the police department, but not in our schools. So let's talk about the preventative nature of the SSO. What would an SSO do all day? Well, they would patrol the interior and exterior of campuses. There would be regular checks. This would go into the protocols, the operational protocols that were developed. So I could imagine an SSO doing a regular door check at certain points of the day. They could also be walking the perimeter of the campus. They could be checking in with the greeter and really be looking out for any harm or risk that could be that the school could be exposed to. They would be monitoring, assisting with student arrival, dismissal, and outside activities, like be present and visible during recess. Detect and prevent any unauthorized entry and activity on campus. Identify and report any hazardous or dangerous conditions. Participate in school building-based security committees, and assist in safety and security plan development. In a more responsive nature, they would be available to respond to situations that may endanger the welfare of our students and staff. They would be right there on the ground, ready to respond. They would serve as a liaison and notify first responders in routine, emergency, or high-risk situations. They would work closely with the school nurse and administrators with medical emergencies. And please note that they would not be involved in any student disciplinary matters. So we are in the process of developing a proposed budget for you that will come before you in January. What we will consider in building this budget would be the salary for each SSO, any potential benefits that would be associated with the salary, the purchase of uniforms, the purchase of equipment, including firearms and any other equipment that is necessary, and what it would cost for training. So if we look at the sum of this proposal, an SSO would serve a critical role in prevention and response. And I will say it's hard to measure the effectiveness of an SSO. How would you know how effective it is until possibly needing to use one? And at any time, our schools could be in danger. An SSO adds an extra layer. Here's just yet another layer of protection. We feel like we're doing a great job, but this is an extra step. It closes the gap, very importantly, for response time for active aggressor incidents. You know, Mr. Nielsen has, over the last year, taken advantage of some of our days where students and staff are not here, but administrators are. And he has facilitated active shooter simulations, working with the emergency response station at the police department. And our department is pretty good. They can get a car out to a school. But we can't really measure how many lives possibly could be saved in the time that it takes a police officer to get from where they are to a school in response to an emergency. That is the measure that keeps me up at night. How many lives can we save by having on-the-ground armed officer? And finally, an SSO at the elementary and the academy will create and maintain an even safer and conducive learning environment for all. I know you probably have lots of questions. Mr. Nielsen, was there anything critical that I may have left out or got wrong? Please feel free to correct me.
No, you did a great job there, as Dr. Katay explained before, this program extends beyond physical security, and the presence of these officers at our schools provides a sense of safety. And that sense of safety is for our students, it's for our staff, it's for our families. And we've made great strides over the last 10 to 15 years in what we do here with the efforts of you, the board, our school community, and the city. And as Dr. Katay mentioned before, we train our staff and our students in prevention and response measures. We're very heavy on prevention. And we feel this program will provide that additional resource. Having that person in a building with a dual lens, and that skill set, those eyes and ears, to be able to assist the administrators and the staff at that building in time of need.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. Ms. Gunnan, we're happy to take questions.
Thank you. I'm sure board members must have questions. Ms. Preet?
Would this be during school hours only? So if there's an event after, after hours, would it just be during the school day and that's their, when they clock in?
That's their primary role.
Yeah.
But just like what occurs now, there are some after-school evening events that do require security and/or police.
Mhm.
And on a as-need basis, those individuals are hired for that event. Is that correct, Mr. Nielsen?
That's correct.
That's correct.
So it would still default to a police officer for those events?
It really depends on
Okay.
the event.
Okay.
Some events, we're required to have a police officer or fire or ambulance, so.
Okay. And then physically located in the school, and will there be signage or some type of front presence, knowing that it's almost, that when you say about a deterrent, or that knowledge that, think twice if you think you're going to do anything to this school, is where would they physically be located, and would there be some type of knowledge to anyone visiting that there is this extra layer of security?
Well, the location of the individual, we probably would give them a desk, computer, chair somewhere.
Okay.
As you know, Ms. Preet, each school is gonna be different.
Sure.
We have some classrooms on a cart in some schools, so it's probably gonna be a closet that's converted into an office, if we're gonna be honest. So that would be dependent. And we don't provide signage in any other school on SROs, so, I think word's gonna get around.
Okay.
And I don't know if I really want the bad guy to know that we have guns everywhere, but that wouldn't be a bad idea, right? Because that could be a deterrent.
You can look at it the way. Yeah.
But there isn't gonna be an announcement that, obviously the press is probably gonna pick this up tomorrow.
Yeah, on the police car, on the existing high schools and middle schools, you do see the police car there. So, but this, in the elementary, you wouldn't have that presence of a police car. So it would just be a little different that way.
Yeah, but when we pull up to middle and high schools, we don't necessarily see the police car, Mr. Nielsen, right?
They do not.
No,
They do not take
no,
the police car to the school.
Historically, they do not bring a patrol car to the schools unless it's needed for some type of special event or some type of circumstances.
Okay, gotcha.
Could I just piggyback on that? So, but we wouldn't be expecting this individual to be stationed at a desk.
Right.
No.
They're gonna be
Walking.
mobile, walking around, so they might be
They'll be,
visible anyway.
they'll be on their feet most of the day. But there may be a need,
Sure.
if they're gonna be part of a safety committee.
Yeah.
But mostly, they're gonna be up on their feet.
Maybe to sit to have lunch. That's
This is true.
Thank you.
And I had one other question about, so for the after hours, so my understanding that these would be situations that we'd be paying for anyway, so it wouldn't be like, it might be overtime for them if we are using the SSO, but we would be paying for somebody anyway to be there.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
There's some times where we have prickly situations that we want a little extra layer of security, so we, sometimes you'll even see a security guard sitting in this room,
Right, yep.
depending on the topic. So that would be just normal operations for us.
Thanks. Other questions? Ms. Irby?
I'm sorry, could you clarify? You did say, that the officer would not be involved in student disciplinary issues, but are they there do they interact with the students? Are they there as a student resource?
We really want them to develop a relationship with students, absolutely, in a really positive, healthy way. I can see this person becoming a cool mentor, an adult friend, someone they can go to, a trusted adult. But we would not be having them engage in any behavioral issues. That's not the intent of this or the SRO program.
Thank you.
Dr. Katak, can I provide an additional comment with that?
Please do.
So many of you know I was a police officer for 20 years, and I have some very close friends currently that work in this role in many other districts. And the relationships they build with the kids, the families, the staff members, I see them every year at our annual safety and security training up at the State Police Academy, and they tell stories, and their smiles are from ear to ear. And they say they love their jobs more than anything they've ever done in any other career. piece of equipment.
Mr. Nielsen, can you tell me how many school districts or approximately have SSOs? Do you know?
The ones that I'm aware of in the state, I believe we're somewhere under 50 in the state with SSOs.
Great, thank you. Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. These SSOs would report to Mr. Nielsen or whoever's in his position, I'm assuming?
So we would need to take a look at the structure of bringing on 9 new employees, along with what Mr. Nielsen already does. There's possibly, we have to consider what happened. So we're in development right now, so I'm just thinking out loud with you, if that's
Yes,
okay?
that's fine.
So we have to think about what happens if someone is sick or calls out for a personal reason. So how does that building get covered? And then how do we coordinate everything now with this extra layer? It's a heavy layer. So we may want, we're entertaining possibly someone like a leader of the SSOs that also does some filling in. So there may be a 10th position that is added to the budget, so that someone actually is doing the coordinating, facilitating of the elementary and the academy, because the SSO work is different than the SRO work, and that's where Mr. Nielsen primarily spends his time. So it may be somebody that does double duty, and that's what our thinking right now. I retain the permission to change our minds by January.
That's fine. No, I just figured Mr. Nielsen already had a lot, so it's a big section department.
Yep.
And new, we'll need
Especially-
a lot of hands-on.
Especially for a launch, right? We're creating a lot of things from scratch, albeit we'll work with community partners and neighbors that already have the program, but it's a heavy lift initially.
Ms. Flowers?
I assume the public is gonna probably have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Comments, concerns. Also probably some parents will be happy to hear that this is in consideration. So I know this is all in development, but like, are you thinking of the strategy of how you're gonna, if this is implemented, how we'll be rolling this out to the public? And, because, parents will probably be concerned that there will be an armed guard on campus.
I realize that there will be a percentage of parents that are concerned. My gut is that there will be many more parents happy that we're finally doing this. Especially anytime there's a little scary event for elementary, I mostly get emails saying, why don't we have more at the elementary? To make everyone comfortable, whether you're for or against this, we imagine sometime in late spring, because budget season isn't over till May. So sometime in late spring, we would do some type of informational push, and maybe even have these individuals available for like a kindergarten orientation if they're hired by that point, or kindergarten visit day, or an open house. So informationally pushing out through all the channels that we have, whether it's through video, social media, something in writing for people who like to consume it, a Q&A. And then as we hire them, make sure that they're super visible and quickly become part of the community. I think seeing the person in their uniform, seeing how cool and friendly they're gonna be, starts to really help people focus as to why we're having that on each campus, and hopefully makes them more comfortable about that person being armed. So I know even with all of that, Ms. Flowers, a gun being on an elementary campus may still scare some people. But and please push back. I think today in 2025, there are more people comfortable with that notion than even just 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's sad that this is unfortunately where we have to be.
Yep.
I'm happy that the district's taking this as such a top priority, and I appreciate that. I'm just thinking of both sides,
Absolutely.
so,
And we are too.
yeah.
And happy to meet with any parents. Mr. Nielsen is happy to talk to any parents that have very specific concerns.
Mhm.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Nielsen, has there been any discussion about the visibility of the weapon? Would it be, regular holster or some other method?
Again, that would be something we would explore with a little more research with the other districts who have programs in place. Some programs have it where it's concealed and some have it where it's an open carry. And I think when you look at both sides of that, there's a deterrent factor with someone knowing that a person's armed versus a questionable one if they don't know if they're armed because it's concealed, right?
Right.
I think we have to weigh both options with that and kind of see what best practices and trends are with here in the state and maybe, around the nation as well.
Right, okay. I was also interested in the comment that was made about storage, that any storage of weapons and ammunition would be at the police department. And I'm glad to hear that it won't be at the school, but by the same token, how does that work? Like, at the end of the day, do they have to go to the police department with their items, or?
The storage of the firearms from other districts I've spoken with preliminary on this, that the school security officers bring those items home. They have the proper safes or items to lock those in at their homes, and they transport them to and from work. When they are not in session for the school, some districts will bring those back to their local police department and have them stored there during the off-season.
Gotcha, okay.
They're needed for special events over the summer. If there's, like, for example, if there's a summer school program that may need it,
Right.
something to that.
Sorry. I stand corrected, thank you, Mr. Nielsen. But their point is, they're not on school property.
Right, correct, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Ms. Doyle?
Sorry, thank you. Mr. Nielsen, if you, in your conversations with other districts and things like that, typically what kind of benefits are associated with these positions that you're aware of? Because I'm guessing most of these are retired police officers who have, this is a second career or whatever.
So I think some of them, obviously there's an employment package that we would have to look at, and that would be wages, benefits, whether it's medical or dental, life insurance. Some districts offer a pension, some offer a 401A match. There's personal time packages. So again, digging into all the specifics of what each of those have, I'd probably get you a more concrete answer with that. I can tell you from where I retired from Milford Police Department, I have health care provided by the police department. That changes as age groups move on through police departments, around the state, different types of programs they have. So that would be a hard one to really put an answer on now.
Understandable, thank you.
Plus, we have certain laws, what we have to provide.
Right.
Yeah. Certain things.
Mr. Scobie?
I have a couple questions. One of them is a clarifying question. It seems like the big difference between the SSO and the SRO is the 15 years experience is required for the SSO. MPD is paying for the SROs, and then we would be paying for the SSOs. And I think, was that backwards?
Go ahead and finish.
Well, and then the other difference was one is in uniform, the other one is in like the casual clothes. So I'm just, I think the casual clothes is actually a good touch. I'm just curious what other differences there might be. Why aren't we just leaning on more SROs?
So we pay for a portion of the SRO salaries, not completely MPD. So that was my shaking of head. And the SROs are active police officers, and the SSO are retired. So people who have been in the job but no longer are. And when we think about SRO work at the middle and high school level, there are more instances where there's a possibility of our young people engaging in illegal activity. And it is more appropriate for an SRO, a full police officer, to be available to handle that type of situation, along with preventative and responsive safety and security. The incident rate of criminal activity among 7-year-olds is lower. Much, much lower. But seriously, we believe that the number one goal that we have would be to have an armed individual on campus, feet on the ground, ready to respond right there and then. we believe that this is a cost-effective way to accomplish that goal without needing the full scope of what a present full-time police officer can do. That would be more appropriate for older kids. And this is a cost-effective way to get to that goal.
Cool.
Mr. Nielsen, would you add anything?
No, I think to your point, I think the demand for the level of service of an SRO increases, again, at that middle school and high school level, because there's a lot of different things, mental health situation. We have a lot of investigations, believe it or not, that involve social media with kids.
I believe that.
So that takes up a good portion of the time of the SROs. And I think just it gears towards those adolescent ages, right? Whereas, to Dr. Fatai's point, at the elementary level, our primary goal here is to provide a safe school environment with someone who can manage those types of incidents if need be with a skill set, and they're equipped to do so.
I have just a couple more questions, which are going to be kind of blunt. I was looking at the qualifications, right? And it says, must have excellent integrity and demonstrate good moral character and initiative. And having hired a bunch of people at the college level, one of the questions you're always asked is, how do you quantify that? And so I know to become a law enforcement officer, you need to go through like psych evals and a lot of those types of evaluations before you can get the role. Is that how you plan on focusing in on that first bullet point of excellent integrity and good moral character? I don't know if you've thought this far ahead, but how do you plan on identifying that with these individuals?
I don't think we've entertained a psych eval. And in our point of development at this time, we're considering reference checks, people who could give us firsthand experience with these individuals, and not just one call, but multiple. Something that is available to hiring departments would be a character or dispositions type of assessment, give us an understanding of how they would approach the work. So I don't know that we have that fully fleshed out, Mr. Scobie. But I also do believe that we would probably end up hiring some folks that we know. Local people that have some roots, and it's not hard to find out the truth about people by talking to people. So I'm sorry, I don't have a more definitive answer for that.
I mean, it's early. I didn't think you were gonna have like a black and white answer to that, but I just wanted to toss some feelers out there about that.
I think it's important to remember too that these are individuals that are retired from a police department, so they would have gone through those kinds of assessments with their former employer too.
Right, yeah, I understand that. So.
Retired in good standing.
Right, yeah.
The other two
Can I
questions.
just add one point to the conversation too, is that the federal and state laws have language in there that addresses, so it's a retired law enforcement officer in good standing, and they take into consideration in those statutes and laws medical releases and mental health releases for those people as well.
That's good to know, thank you.
You're welcome.
Last two, just, again, with the qualifications, are you guys doing a type of like fitness test or anything like that? Somebody's got to sprint from one side of the building to the other side of the building. Do you have anything like that planned?
It's too early to tell.
Yeah, okay.
Can they walk? What's the largest elementary school?
Probably like in square footage or.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll have a physical fitness test.
Yeah, I mean, walking, I'm less concerned about the walking. They're there for emergencies, right? So I'm more concerned with, closing that gap. But if they can't sprint from one side of the building to the other side of the building, that would have me a little bit concerned. So again, blunt questions.
Well, I think Mr. Nielsen mentioned that there's a medical release in that statute. Did you say that, Mr. Nielsen?
Correct.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, so I think at the time they had to be physically able to perform their duties. But there's time differences between when people retire, and it's a valid point. It's something I can explore with some of the other districts as we start to do more fact-finding and their processes on this.
And that just kind of leads to my last question. Do you happen to have any data on the average age of SSOs in the state right now?
That I do not. I can tell you that most police departments have a 20 to 25 year retirement So if someone made it there, you figure they have to be 21 years of age to be appointed as a police officer. So you're looking probably mid to late 40s if they go through a career at the age of 21 start. Most people start that career later on. I started mine when I was 24. Some people are starting those, into their late 20s. But again, going back to the language we mentioned before, it could be someone who was separated from service in good standing with 15 years of experience, so we make it someone who might be a little younger.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm out.
Additional questions? All right, I see none, so we'll expect to have some more concrete details on budget at that time, correct?
In January.
Very good, thank you.
And we're gonna move on to athletics.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen.
Yes,
Feel
thank you.
better?
Thanks, feel better.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good evening, Ms. Glenn, members of the board. I have a handout for you guys, sorry, give me 1 second.
Wait, there are 2 handouts.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a better.
No, it's redundant.
You see that?
One on full size. One's 2 here, 2 sides.
No. This is, take this one. This is just, I don't know.
Okay, let's get started, yeah.
It's the same thing. This has got multiple on a page, and that's got one.
So this is larger font, anyone want a larger font?
Larger font, does anyone have the larger font?
Good.
Okay.
All right, beautiful. All right, so, good evening, everyone. This is going to be our annual athletics financial report. Before we jump in, I'd like to thank Mr. Tom Drew, Athletic Director of Jonathan Wall High School, for being here this evening. Mr. Rayusi was unable to be here because he is supporting our volleyball team at the Foreign vs. Sacred Heart SCC semifinal volleyball game. So we wish them the best of luck, and we thank Mr. Drew for being here this evening. So on this first slide here, it outlines some of our general overview, high-level information about our athletics. We have 26 interscholastic sports. They are all sanctioned by the CIAC, and we are a member of the Southern Connecticut Conference. Milford Public Schools also supports district-based programs such as Unified Sports and Power Pups, which we'll talk a little bit about. So diving a little deeper into our Unified Sports, which is a registered program in the Special Olympics, it partners student athletes with and without special needs students for training and competition. It runs throughout the school year at both the high school and middle school level. There's some competition in soccer, basketball, volleyball, softball, wiffle ball, and bowling. And annually, we have a varying number of students, but we have this last year, about 50 to 55 students participate. And also, just one more quick mention before I move on. This annual athletics financial report is for the 24-25 school year, so it's not for this school year, it's for last school year. So we report on all the financial information from the previous year. So basic overview of how we fund our athletics. There's really 2 sources of funding for our athletics. Number 1 is the general fund, which is money that comes from our budget, money that you will find in our budget book. The other way is through the athletic activities account. And in that athletic activities account, there is different various sources of revenue that would come in that we will discuss shortly. But in any account, either way, these are the 2 general ways that we fund our athletics. The first one is the general fund, which I mentioned was the information that you would find in our budget book. This is general fund money. It typically supports coaches' salaries, transportation, our trainers, insurance, equipment and supplies, uniforms, things of that nature are all supported by our general fund money. I have an overview here of what that general fund account expenditure looks like and a detailed breakdown by those accounts. So at a high level, it shows what those student athletics was spent by both of those. We separate the hockey out as its own separate piece there for both the boys and the girls. And then there's a subtotal for the total student athletics there. And then additionally, underneath that, we have transportation, athletic trainers, athletic insurance, as a breakdown of those different accounts to give us the total amount there of the $1,364,865. This next slide, in contrast to that one from 2 slides ago where we talked about what was funded through the general fund budget, this is the part that talks about athletic activities account, so the other way that our athletics are funded. This really contributes to the money that's used for game day operations. So for instance, we pay game officials, part-time staff, which are announcers, ticket takers, security, things of that nature, police officers, ambulance, medical, all those types of things are supported through our athletic activities account, which are the game day expenses. This one here talks about our gate receipts and our revenue. So as you can see at the top there, we had $145,187 in ticket sales this past year. This also talks about other sources of revenue. So it talks about tournaments and special events. That would be something like if we host a CIAC tournament where there's different towns coming, some other kind of CIAC tournament, there's money that comes into our account for hosting such an event. Now that money does go out to pay officials and pay for things of that nature, medical staff, but it does count as a revenue because it's money that comes into our account. Hockey participation fees, that's something that counts as a revenue. That's something that we would charge Platt Tech students for being a part of our hockey program. This is not something that we charge law or foreign students for. And then donates, rebates, royalties, that's something like vending machines. If there's apparel sold at local stores, that would be something that would count as a revenue. One of our streaming services, there's money that is received back as part of a revenue source for that as well. So those would be things that were donates, rebates, and royalties. And then down at the bottom there, this game day operations. It's counted as a revenue for accounting purposes, but it's the $82,000 that we provide to the schools from our budget. So that comes from our budget as a revenue to help offset some of those costs for game day operations. And the reason that we would need that offset is because relying on the actual ticket sales is a very variable, I like that phrase, very variable source of revenue. There are so many things that factor into any one of our games, depending upon what sport it is, just right off the bat, but also what's the weather look like, what's the team's record, how are they progressing throughout the year, different fan bases, things of that nature, which would create a variable source of revenue coming in at those ticket sales. So we can't solely rely on ticket sales to support our program. And I think an important mention here is that regardless of how many people come through that gate, we're still gonna need to provide all the different services to make sure our students are safe, make sure that the game runs, and make sure that we have everything we need to make sure that it's smooth. The cost of game day operations continues to rise, as I'm sure you could imagine. When we look at medical staff that's needed for our game, when we look at police, our own internal staff, things of that nature would really, they're going up around us. So as a result, in this past year, we increased the price of tickets to keep up with the rising cost of some of these external needs. And it wasn't anything significant. We raised it to $7 for an adult and $5 for a student or a senior. And I believe that's from $3 and $5, Mr. Drew. So it was $3 for a senior and a student and $5 for an adult. So we raised that from $3.85 to $5.7. Here is an accounting of our gate receipt history. As you can see on this slide, there was $0 received in gate receipt history in the 2020-2021 year, which was in tribute to COVID. And the year before, the year prior, 2019-2020, was a little lower than the previous year, because if you recall, we went out in about March-ish for that time, so any kind of spring athletics did not come in for that. It's been typically stable throughout those years. This past year, you'll see this increase in revenue, and that was a result of two things. One, us raising the ticket prices, but also we had a few of our teams had some phenomenal years, which increased the amount of ticket sales that we would typically see attributed in some of those sports. This next slide here talks about ticket sales. It breaks it down by different sports and by the school, and it really just kind of outlines how much we're receiving at the gate for each one of these sports. And as you'll see, as a total there, we brought in the 24-25 year, $145,197 in gate receipts, which, as I mentioned earlier, is not enough to offset the cost of all of our athletics. Under this next slide here, these are the expenditures. This chart really provides an overall accounting of the different things that go into building the athletics activity account. So coaches, outlines how much we spend on coaches, transportation, officials. We tried to break it down by category so you had a big picture overview of where all those dollars are going to. On this slide here, we outline student participation by sport. In the fall, we had a total of 469 athletes. In the winter, a total of 456 athletes. And then in the spring, a total of 584 athletes. And I think it's important to mention here, just a point of clarification, that those aren't unique athletes. So I wouldn't say summing up the total of those three represents how many students we have participating in athletics, because some of these students, as you are aware, are multi-sport athletes who possibly participate in all three seasons. So this is a representation of how many athletes we have in each season. This next slide here breaks it down by expenses by sport. So we really, as you can see, we really tried to provide you with a bunch of information presented in a bunch of different ways so you can really understand and dissect the difference between how this is funded. Expenses by sports talks about all those different things that go into supplying for the sport. Coaches, athletes, supplies, I mean, everything. One quick note that I wanted to make a mention of on here, in that left column, the second one from the bottom where it says all sports, that's not a representation of all these sports summed together. That is for items that would typically go across all sports, such as athletic tape, medical supplies, ice packs, things of that nature, things that aren't attributed to any one individual sport, but are for all the sports. We use them for all the sports. And then we take it one step further by looking at the cost per student. So this is an estimated cost per student, and it's a simple formula. We take the total expense for that sport, and we divide it by the number of students that are playing, and it comes up with a dollar amount of an approximate of what it would cost per student for that one sport. These next few slides focus in on our hockey program. So hockey is a CIAC sanctioned sport. We are allowed to engage in a co-op team if we wouldn't be able to otherwise support an individual team at each of our schools. So we actually are engaged in a co-op program. It's law, foreign, and Plat Tech students. This program began in 1990. And this program is overseen by the athletic director at Jonathan Law, Mr. Drew. Very similarly, general funds pay for coaches, transportation, athletic trainer, and ice time. And the game day operations supplemented by ticket sales. So those are things like the refs, medical, all those different things. So it's a very similar setup to our other, the other way that we fund our other programs. This slide here discusses our ice hockey team. So there's a little bit of history with our ice hockey team, and I'm going to quickly overview how it's progressed through the years. So this is also a co-op team. From 2010 to 2020, we partnered with Notre Dame of Fairfield for girls ice hockey, and then in 2021, Notre Dame withdrew as the host of the co-op team, and Milford agreed to host the team. It included players from Milford, Notre Dame Fairfield, Weston, and Pompano. With declining numbers, which I'll get to the chart, which will show the number of students that we have participating, and will help clarify this point right here. After we had signed on, there was a drop in the number of students from Milford that were actually participating in this. So as a result, we ended up dissolving us being the lead in that, and we partnered with Hamden Public Schools as a part of their co-op. And the schools that are part of that co-op team are Hamden, Milford, Holy Cross, New Haven, and Wallingford. And we pay a player participation fee, and we also pay for transportation of our students to go to Hamden. Very similarly like Platt Tech does with paying the participation fee. And this slide here just kind of outlines the shift in number of students that were interested in girls ice hockey. As you can see, we had a drastic increase in numbers, and then at that time when the other team decided that they weren't going to, I think it was Notre Dame, when they decided they weren't going to host anymore, we had a significant number of students. We said, great, we can host, and then from there, you'll see the decrease in number of students who have participated. And we are happy to partner with the Hamden Rim Dragons to help support our girls. That concludes the athletic report, and I'm happy at this time to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan, and thank you, Mr. Drew, for being here. Questions from board members? Pretty straightforward. Do we have, so we don't have any students in any co-op team paying a participation fee at this point?
We have, we don't have any students paying, like, our students, you mean?
Correct, yeah.
Correct, so hockey, no, hockey, our Milford students do not pay participation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. Quick question. The insurance, does that include now? Because that was the first year of the summer athletics, correct?
Which slide?
Because the insurance all the way at the beginning, slide 6, the athletic insurance.
Yes,
So that now includes the summer athletics that may not have been included?
correct, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you mean at first.
It's okay.
Yes, the athletics, yes, because she's referring to, Ms. Doyle is referring
Right.
to the summer athletic program that we now have implemented starting this last summer, yes.
So was this past summer the first year for that? 2 years?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years? And is
Yeah.
that well received?
Yeah, we have high numbers. It's, I mean, just about every kid is involved like Sean said, Mr. Brennan said, we have a lot of multi-athlete students, and they're all involved in just about everything. It's very well received.
Okay, very good. Ms. Doyle?
Sorry. Esports is fall and spring, correct? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Preet?
Just one quick one. Are you still doing the loyalty for the students where they get a T-shirt and they pay the $30 or $40 and they they
Yes.
can get into the games? That's still going on?
Yes, that's still going on. That's typically run through booster clubs.
Okay.
So that's not necessarily a school function. That's
Okay.
something that a booster club or a PTO would typically take on.
Okay.
But
And it
yes,
covers their
I
ticket?
believe those are both running
Yes.
in both schools.
Okay.
Yes,
It covers their ticket too?
it does.
Yeah, it covers their ticket, they get a T-shirt and free admission to games for the year.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a very nice thing, and just a nice mention for our booster clubs to help support this, because it's a really nice thing, and it's very affordable for our students, and it goes across the whole year. Without knowing number, I believe it's $25 for the year.
Yes.
And that allows them to get into every home game that we have.
So it increases their participation, student, spectator.
School
Yes,
spirit.
correct.
Yes,
Correct,
school
yes,
spirit,
school
yes.
spirit, yeah, and it's really a great thing. So thank you to the booster clubs for helping support that.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the report.
Mr. Drew, thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
a great
We appreciate
evening.
your work.
Thank you.
And on to the next item. Mr. Brennan, you're on again.
I'm on. All right, so
Code switch.
here's some In front of you, you'll have the information for our 25 transportation report, 2025 transportation report. This one here, so this first slide here talks about how transportation is a large part of our daily operation. So we're talking about, this report here specifically talks about our transportation to and from school, field trips, and traveling to athletic competitions. So our students, I would just like to mention that our students receive excellent service. We are partnered with Durham School Services, and they have been a phenomenal partner for a number of years, and they are very accommodating to the needs of our students and our staff. So I'd like to thank them for everything they're doing to help keep our students safe and get them to school. So this presentation tonight focuses on regular ed transportation. Special ed transportation is handled through our PPS department under the direction of Mr. Zenowitz, and that is based on individual student need. This is a quick high-level summary of our transportation policy, policy 3541. This statement right here, I think, is important because it's really our guiding principle as we make decisions regarding transportation for our students. Outlines really what we kind of go by with our thinking. In this slide here, it outlines, which once again is in our transportation policy, the walking distance guidelines and eligibility to school. As you'll see by level, there is a different threshold for the walking distance guidelines. Middle school and elementary schools have that 1 mile threshold, and our high schools have 1.5 mile threshold. And then that is also, there's an asterisk down at the bottom that unless there's a hazardous condition that has been identified, that could alter those thresholds that are set above. This next slide here, these next couple slides, is going to talk about the eligible ridership. So I think that's important to understand that these are eligible ridership slides, and I'd like to just remind the board that ridership throughout different seasons of the year can fluctuate based on athletic participation, after-school activities, a parent's work schedule. So there's a number of things that could fluctuate how many students are actually riding the bus. But what's important to mention is that regardless of that, if a student is eligible for a bus, we need to provide that transportation. And it's something that we have to do by law. So number of riders assigned to a bus. Once again, this is number of riders that are assigned to a bus, not necessarily the number of riders that are on our buses every single day. And as you can see, it breaks it down by level. We have 962 eligible students at the high school level, 943 at the middle school level, just under 1,500 at the elementary level, and then 263 for our parochial tech schools. One of the great things that I think we offer is an opt-in program. So there is the beginning of the school year, we get our students on buses, we monitor and we track how many students are on each bus. And then what we do is we have an application process that allows families to opt in. So let's say they don't meet necessarily the guidelines that makes them eligible for transportation, they can apply through the transportation department for a possibility of opting into ridership. So it's a great opportunity, and we notify these families no later than October 1st of each year if we will allow them to opt in. The opt-in program needs certain conditions to apply. So a seat must be available on the bus, that's first and foremost. The bus can't deviate from its original course, and the student must be able to get to an existing bus stop. So we're not adding any bus stops, we're not changing any routes, and there needs to be a seat on that bus. And this additional rider can't have any adverse effect on cost, timing, et cetera, all those different pieces that I've outlined. In this report here, you'll see the number of riders that have opted in by level, and we had a total of 58 riders that applied for this opt-in program this year, and I'm happy to report that we were able to accommodate all 58 applications this year. This next slide really dives into our fleet. So we cover our 14 local public schools, 3 parochial schools, which are Berlin Christian Academy, St. Mary's, and Norrington Hall. We also have 4 tech vocational magnet schools, which are Platt, Aquaculture, ECA, and Trumbull-Voag. This fleet consists of 63 vans and buses, and that's 40 regular ed and the 23 internal special ed buses that we have. And this accounts for 106 bus runs, 990 bus stops. Some things that we have on all of our buses that's just standard practice is we have video cameras to help monitor and keep our students safe. And we also have the Zonar swipe badge system. This Zonar swipe badge system helps understand what number of students are on the bus and also allows us to track attendance. The Zonar swipe badges, the badges that our students carry, are also used for other aspects of the school day. So it's not just the swipe badges for the bus in isolation, they use them during the school day in food service for our lunchroom, checking out a library book, those kind of things would also be part of that. And then our operation, this really outlines the structure of our school day, and this structure allows for maximum efficiency. So we have 40-minute windows between our levels. As the board may or may not be aware, we pay a daily rate for each school bus. So allowing to have 40-minute windows in between the start times for our schools allows us to utilize a bus for multiple runs. So if we had to purchase a bus per school, per run, at each level, that would significantly increase our transportation costs. So we pay that flat daily rate, allowing to use it at elementary, middle, and then high school will save us money and makes it maximum efficiency. This slide outlines the number of bus runs by level. So you saw the 106 bus runs that we have. This breaks it down by actual level, and you will see that at the elementary level, we have the most bus runs. I think this slide really kind of outlines the operational efficiency that we've engaged in over the years. So a number of years back in that 2014-2015 year, we had 135 bus runs. During that time, a study was conducted, and we took a look at some internal efficiencies that we could actually conduct. And you'll see throughout those next few years, it reduced the number of bus runs we had. And we have a fairly stable number of bus runs, but you will notice a level of fluctuation in there. And that's because each year, regardless of finding those efficiencies, we still go through and look for efficiencies each year. That's with the bus runs and the bus stops. So it's not just, here's the number of bus runs we have, and we just take it at face value. Each year, we look at where are students now positioned based on, how many have aged out, how many are coming in, what makes sense for bus stops, what makes sense for bus runs. So we adjust those yearlies to make sure that we are being responsive to the needs of our students, while also making sure that we have an efficient operation. This next slide here talks about, while we have a smooth operation, sometimes there are some interruptions in service. If there's construction that shuts down a street, let's say, we make the best of it. And I would just like to take this opportunity to just thank our partners, the Public Works Department, Fire Department, Police Department, Durham. Everyone works together when one of these things comes up, and we are notified in our department that, hey, at this time there's going to be a construction on this street. So what we do is we reroute to make sure that our students and our families are accommodated and that the bus run isn't increasing a significant amount of time. So just want to give a shout out to our partners, because everyone, it's really an all hands on deck to make sure that this disruption limits some of the possible disruptions that we could have. This next slide here outlines the cost. So you'll see the cost per bus for the whole school year outlined for these past few years. This 25-26 school year, a cost of a bus is $72,791, which equates to $402.16 per day.
What was that per day?
$402.16. This next slide here talks about our fuel costs. So Milford benefits from a very rare benefit of Durham paying for the first dollar of every gallon of gasoline and diesel for all of our school buses. So we are reimbursed for that. So they fill up, we bill them for that dollar, and then they reimburse us that first dollar of every single gallon. So whether they're the large school buses, the smaller school buses, whichever bus or van that they have, we get reimbursed that first dollar for every gallon, which is a very rare benefit that we see a large number of money in returns for. And then just want to thank our ongoing partnership with Durham. Neil Martino is the general manager. I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with Neil. He's presented in front of the board in years past. He's a manager that you can call day, night, weekends, whatever it may be, to help troubleshoot any situation that arises. Him and his team have always been very phenomenal with responding to any requests. They work very closely with our families, and I just want to give them a thank you for everything they do to help support our students and our staff and our families to getting to the schools. This time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. How long is a typical bus run? Like, how long is a student on the bus? No more than 40 minutes, clearly.
Yeah, no more than 40 minutes. We try to make them as short a time as possible while also maintaining that efficiency level. So the bus times really could vary, whether you're the first student on the bus or you're the last student on that run. But yeah, it's definitely within that window of time. You know, we want to be mindful of how long our students are sitting on a bus. But if you're that first student that's being picked up and you're the last student on that run, then there is a variance between that time limit.
You mentioned it's $402.16 per day. Do you remember off the top of your head how much other districts were paying when you did some of your research, the range per day?
Yeah, the range, it fluctuated greatly, but where this put us was right in the middle of where these other districts that have responded are paying currently. So
Okay.
it actually put us below the actual average of the cost per day in each of our 5 years.
Okay, and so how much is going up, 4% this year? Is that what it was?
4%, yes.
Okay.
So we are locked into a very reasonable 4% for these subsequent 4 years. It's a 5-year contract.
Great, thank you.
Can you tell me how you stay abreast of, like, when new sidewalks and stuff go in, that might reduce a hazard or change a hazard situation so that a child that lives within walking distance might be able to start walking?
Yes, so that's usually done through like our yearly audit process. We are notified when new things like that would occur. But there's also the parent population that would reach out to us if they feel like there was a hazardous situation. They reach out to us, and one of the things that we do is we go out to the site. We make sure that we have boots on the ground to take a look at that. We work very closely with our Milford Police Department, specifically the traffic division, to make sure that we're accounting for all those different things.
But the opposite way, so if new sidewalks were put into a neighborhood that maybe should be walkers but weren't walking, and new sidewalks are put in, does Public Works let you know when they put new sidewalks in, or do you just kind of stumble upon the information?
No, there's a notification loop for that, so it's something that we make sure that we're actively monitoring. And just for instance, over by Willem Court, I think that was a newer development that went in like a year or two back, and there was a sidewalk that was connected on that road there. So that's something that we keep up to date on that situation.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you for Ms. Meslagides, who is your ACE
Yes.
Transportation Coordinator, does a phenomenal job.
She's phenomenal. She does a great job.
Thank you.
Ms. Glennon, we'd like to move to the next item, which is the Board of Ed policies for first read.
Yes.
And Mr. Giancola is going to kick us off with the first policy on personal cell phones.
Thank you, Dr. Kataya, Ms. Glennon, and fellow board members. I would like to go over the changes to policy P 5131.81, which was called the use of cell phone or other personal communication devices. So you'll notice first that we changed the title to remove the cell phone or other personal communication to private technology devices by students. And I would just like to offer a quick friendly amendment to that first paragraph, to strike in the second sentence and third sentence, cell phones or other personal communications. You'll see that the red is in there for private technology devices, but it was inadvertently left in there for cell phone or other in sentence 2, and then cell phones and smartwatches and other on there. So you'll see throughout this that we struck all of that and just changed it to private technology devices. The next part where we took out the purpose of who's responsible for these devices, and because that was added later on in the policy, which I will go over shortly. We added definitions, just to quickly go through that. District technology resources, those are like our computers and Chromebooks, instructional technologies that Mr. Oitieri gives us, and our other stuff to access the internet. Private technology devices, this defines what a private technology device is. In here you'll see that, we have cellular phones, smartphones, smartwatches, AI-powered glass, AI-powered smart glasses, and other artificial intelligence devices, because they're constantly changing. As you know, technology is constantly changing. So we added our definitions there. And then we also added generative artificial intelligence for the purpose of defining using this as, that's what it is, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of those different services. On page 2, so I added some like titles. So this is our use of private technology devices, and it changed at the elementary level to elementary school students, just made more sense, flowed a little bit better. And we struck the cell phones and private devices. That at the elementary school level, that did not change. At the middle school level, you'll see that we took out the exception at the middle school level when use of a cell phone is authorized in a classroom with consent of the teacher. This was due to the principals telling us that, lockers are in the classrooms, so even if a teacher wanted to use it, it would be disruptive to another class to have a kid go get it. So, and also, we felt that it was the right thing to do. That students shouldn't be using their cell phones or any type of device like that in middle school at any time during the school day. And just to point out, in the high schools, you'll notice that it says may be used in non-classroom areas as designated by school administration. So, like cafeteria, maybe that any space that's not maybe in the hallways in between classes, I think they allow that as well. So then in the next paragraph, you'll see that we kept the definition there, but we added in improper uses included or but not limited to. So we kind of tried to give a little bit of a definition of what would be improper uses. So you'll notice in here that anything that's disruptional to the educational environment, harassing pictures, violating academic integrity, any board policy such as the AUP, things like that, anything for communication, trying to gain unauthorized access to district technology resources. There's devices out there that try to hack our network, so we're trying to not bring those devices in. Then to page 3, anything that could interfere with the district technology resources. Of course, cyberbullying, photographs, videos, or recordings that aren't authorized while on school property, in the next bullet. And then using a private technology device to use the generative artificial intelligence, and taking any action provided by state law. We left in there the search of private technology devices. This defines when an administrator can do that. There was no changes in there other than the private technology, taking out the wording. And then disciplinary action, a couple just, spelling out that it was board policy, the acceptable use and discipline, again, private policy. And then on page 4, again, just updating, some wording there from his or her, privately owned technology devices. And then the new paragraph there, the responsibility for private technology devices, that the school district and the board is not responsible for these devices. And then just in some of the references, we updated it to match the titles of those policies, of those board policies. So at this time, I'll entertain any questions.
Ms. Flowers?
Okay, I have a couple questions. And forgive me that I am new. Some of my questions are old news. So this policy is being updated, and it was a 2018, last updated 2018 policy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm curious if it is implied that if a student has an IEP or a 504 and they need modifications to this policy, is it implied that that's in the policy, or have we ever experienced that?
Can you expand on your question, Ms. Flowers?
So if there was a reason that someone with a 504 plan needed to reach out to their parent in the middle of class or needed something, is that just implied that they're able to do that, or do they need to leave the room?
So something that's included in IEP would be a requirement for us to fulfill.
Okay, so then it's implied.
We would work on, there are other policies that cover IEPs and 504s.
Okay.
And that would be worked out through the team at the table to create the least disruptive. So
Correct.
if
Yeah.
the use of a cell phone in general needs to occur because of a student's disability, that would happen through the PPT process.
Okay. Since the policy has essentially been in place since 2018, I'm just curious, how is it in terms of the disciplinary notes to the disciplinary action? Is it effective with students? Like, are we finding a lot of disruptions in class in terms of them not following the policy? Are we finding there's a lot of repeat offenders? Would it be beneficial for the board to have conversations about things like strike 1, strike 2, strike 3?
As written into policy?
If that is something that can be done, or is that a separate conversation?
It's probably an administrative regulation on how to implement policy. Policy is only as good as how well it's implemented and enforced. And when dealing with children and human behavior, the enforcement of a cell phone is challenging. And if I work my way through the levels, the most challenging technology that's facing us at the elementary are smartwatches. A lot of kids get those around Christmas time, and suddenly, January, we're really distracted with the smartwatch on our wrist. So with this policy, that is not allowed if you pass this policy. It's a privately owned technology, and so smartwatches would not be allowed, and so we would have to send home a letter, and smartwatches that come to school would need to be removed and put in backpacks. Teachers see them, they'd have to ask the student to put it away. And we would use the regular escalation of disciplinary work that we do with students. We usually take steps that are progressive, from warnings to then more serious disciplinary actions. Middle school is, when we talk to principals, and I think it depends on the season or the time of year, and how well teachers are enforcing it. So students are supposed to put their cell phones in their lockers. That's where they're supposed to be. And so when their cell phones are seen, they're either taken away or the student is sent back to put it back in the locker. So that's effective, as long as the adults are implementing that. And if students continue to violate that, again, the progressive nature of discipline is implemented. We constantly see kids on their cell phones in the hallway at the high school level, but that's allowed according to policy. And there's a lot of cell phone usage at cafeteria tables. I would love to disallow that, but that's not where we are right now. I do believe that we have future work to do in this area. But what the intent of bringing this to you now was to be able to capture some of those other private technologies that is not in your policy, like the smartwatch, and we are starting to get little rumblings of the eyeglasses. And with the Christmas around the corner, or the holidays, pardon me, we'll probably see some of those new technologies in our classrooms. So we wanted to expand the use of privately owned technologies in the policy to capture this next wave. But we also know that our team needs to do a little bit more work on the use of cell phones at the high school level in particular. And where do we want to go as a district? Do we want to be a yonder packet district? Do we want to just say no cell phones period in our schools? And if that's what we say, how do we enforce that? Like, what do you do with the kid who brings in their phone repeatedly and doesn't listen? So we just don't want to create a situation where it's, impossible. And that's something that the board considers, like, to what degree are the policies that you're approving enforceable? So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think my point is that, I think it's important that we support our kids' happiness and education and our teachers. And these digital distractions are, without question, negatively impacting them. So, again, I'm new, so
Yeah.
I'm wanting to understand kind of where, just kind of where we are with all of that. And I guess maybe more can be done. I mean, obviously, the board, we have an election coming up, so there will be more conversations, I'm sure, in the future, but I just think it's really important that we support our students and our teachers. And I think so. That's why I was asking those questions.
I would love to see a role of the board in the future that includes advocacy. There are states where governors have passed laws that ban cell phones from classrooms. Did Massachusetts just do that?
Yeah.
So it would make it much easier for school districts if the entire state was banning cell phones from their schools. So that would be a role for future Board of Education members, would be state level advocacy for such support. And yonder packs are very, very expensive. That would be a budget impact.
I saw Stratford did something with, they're not yonder packs, but they're like plastic pouches.
Is it a pouch or the box?
It's a box, and then the teacher can take
Yeah, I
the
saw that
whole,
too.
I think it was around, they quoted the article as like $10,000.
So some of our classrooms, actually, if you walk through the high school classrooms, they have
Basket.
like the shoe
It was that kind of
organizer.
idea, but it's portable.
I've seen it in my visits to high schools. And I've talked to teachers, they say it's incredibly effective. That they check in their phone at the beginning of class and then they grab it at the end. There's no chance of it being a distraction. And honestly, the Chromebooks that we give our kids have everything they need for learning. They don't need anything else. That Chromebook connects them to whatever they need in a really safe place. Because their cell phones are probably skipping over our network and using their data lines. So when they're using their personal devices, they could choose not to use our network. Therefore, we don't really have controls. But we need this, if the future board takes any future steps, we really need the cooperation of parents. We won't be able to do it on our own, and I think the whole community needs to revisit what do we value when it comes to families. So it's one thing to ask school adults, teachers, staff members to enforce this. But the other side of that coin is how well is that being enforced at the dinner table? In restaurants, on a Saturday morning when the family's home, like, this is much greater than just the impact from during school hours. So I'd love to engage in a community conversation about that.
I would love that.
Yeah, we need help.
Well, I mean, nobody wants to be the cell phone police. I don't want to tell a parent that they're not allowed to do something for their child. But there is an impact on education, period. And I just think it's something that we can't just put our head in the sand and not, and you're addressing it. I mean, I really appreciate that essentially this, apart from the shift in the middle school, that you've had something in place since 2018 that other towns are just now putting into place. And I think it's important to recognize that. I just want to do more.
Yeah, and Ms. Flowers, it is more than academics. I believe it's impacting the mental health of our young people.
Yep.
So I love how Ms. Karamas put this with me, and I won't take credit for it. But at one time when we were growing up, if we were being bullied at school, we would get a break from it when you went home. Our young people who are experiencing those type of aggressive behaviors don't get a break from it at all. It's 24/7 because of social media and the ability to text. So it's pretty significant on actually the wellness of our children. Actually, I think it's a higher impact on the mental health and wellness of our young people, and academics would be a second to that, from what we're seeing.
Well, and that was sort of my question of, strike one, strike two, strike three type situation. There's bringing your cell phone out and checking it, and then there's bullying, there's cheating. There are different offenses that are different. And that is obviously not part of the policy, but I think it's a conversation that.
Well, it's part of a different policy though.
Okay.
So there are some specific behaviors on the use of technology that ramp you right up to possible expulsion.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be progressive in nature. There are some behaviors using technology that take you right to something more severe. And unfortunately, what we're seeing a steep increase in is the level of use of technology in crimes. So the behavior elevates to a crime. Hence, police department has to get involved. And we're talking about middle and high schoolers. Acting in a way that they probably don't even know they're breaking the law. So a lot more to talk about here, but it needs to be like a full-blown plan with multiple stakeholders. It's a real crisis.
Do you see that happening do you see that that's something that the board needs to start working on, or is this just an ongoing conversation?
I think the board's work in this would primarily be policy and supporting any programming or materials or partnerships through budget. I think the work for us, when we talk about where does this fit into our long-term plans, probably a launch for next school year, and setting up some partner work. We already started some of this. We partnered with the school library, Milford Library, to read The Anxious Generation. We rolled out some parent sessions on that. Some participation, but not enough.
That was well done.
Yeah, so I think it needs to be a community. While we will be a major player at the table, there has to be other people at the table to launch it as a community effort. And I could see us doing something next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Preet?
Under improper purposes, include but are not limited to, and all those bullet points, should we add something along the lines of gambling? I don't mind gambling as something that's improper purpose. Because that's something I know the high schoolers are doing, DraftKings.
We're happy to add that, thank you.
Is that on page 2 of 5?
It carries over all the bullets on 2 into 3, all those bullets, I didn't see gambling.
So
That's
the
added.
second bullet there on page 2,
Okay,
I had a question on the, I found it a little clunky, and I've read it over a couple of times, and I think maybe there's just an S missing. So in this use in a manner that is profane, indecent, obscene, threatening, discriminatory, bullying or harassing language, pictures, gestures, or intimidating messages. I think there needs to be an S there.
Okay.
And I think that made it flow better for me, just having the plural.
Got it.
Anybody else with any questions on this policy?
I have a
This is-
few.
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. The fourth bullet down in that same group of bullets, I'm a little confused by that. The communication of marks or grades assigned to students resulting from evaluation. Is it other students? Is it personal? How is that limited? Say a child wants to text their parent in the hall that they've received an A on a report or something like that. So I'm not,
You're not clear what that is.
yeah.
So that's like giving, it's probably more geared towards another kid. Oh, you know, like,
They
it
did
would
that
probably
job.
fall under bullying, almost like, you know, that kid got an F, you know, instead
Right.
of, that's where that falls under.
Okay. In that same section in the next page, violation of a student or other person's reasonable expectation of privacy, which is great, fine. This private technology devices may not be utilized to take photos, all of that, while on school property, while on school-sponsored transportation. So it's added here, but then the first lead into this paragraph says that they are allowed to use it at various times. So I don't know how those two, like, sentences in that bullet are connected specifically. Or are we just generally not allowing them to take photos, videos, or audio recordings?
Where's the lead-in?
In the,
In the same bullet?
no, it's in the paragraph
Page.
before all the bullets. If students are authorized to use private technology devices while at school, their use must comply with policies and regulations related to acceptable use of technology in local public schools.
So I think the one in the bullet is specific about photographs, videos, and audio recordings.
So I'm just asking, so students are at a sports, they're playing their sport, they're taking pictures of they're practicing a play and they're watching how they're doing it. Is that something not allowed? Are all photographs, all videos, all recordings just generally not acceptable?
So the spirit of this would be with malintent,
Right. That's what I,
not let me take a picture of how you're swinging that bat so we can learn how to do it better,
Right.
right?
right. Well, I'm thinking of, you know, the team just came home from winning a football game and they are excited on the bus and they take a video or something like that and they're excited. So I just,
Can we
You
add
know-
that word?
yeah. I mean, it's-
Violation of a student or other person's reasonable expectation of privacy with malintent.
Well, if I enforce the policy, it's hard to determine intention.
Right.
So I wouldn't use malintent, but something,
I mean, if you're
planning to
violating,
use it badly.
right, I mean, if you're violating another person's reasonable expectation of privacy, that's a problem, generally. Doesn't matter whether it's malintent or anything else.
So it's connected to that.
Yeah, I think. Maybe,
That may, so then it becomes repetitive, right? So
right,
that sentence belongs to that bullet.
right.
So can you make the connection because of how it's positioned, or do you need us to repeat it again in the second sentence?
I think that maybe just adding the word specifically,
The word specifically?
say specifically private technology
Oh, specifically,
devices.
comma,
Yeah. To do so.
Where's that?
in the second, in this bullet, on the sentence, specifically private technology devices.
But it still causes the problem. It doesn't qualify it.
So your concern is the second sentence that says, private technology devices may not be utilized to take photographs, videos, or audio recordings while on school property, while on school-sponsored transportation, or while a student is engaged in school-sponsored activities. So that needs some qualification there.
Right, it just needs to be connected specifically to that bullet.
So
As
that means then
such.
we'll be redundant, so, as such,
As such, private technology,
Right, as such, private
As such.
technology,
that's better.
there we go, that's fine. And then just a minor change. Under disciplinary action, the board authorizes the superintendent or their designee.
Yeah.
You caught one, but that was one that was in there. Thank you, that's it.
any questions?
With that change we just added, doesn't that still disallow people from like taking celebratory videos on the bus ride back?
If the reason is to violate a student's or other person's reasonable expectation of privacy.
It connects the two sentences. Anything else?
All right, we're gonna move on to the next three policies with Mr. Altieri.
Good evening, board members. We made some slight modifications to the three policies and are asking for you to refer to the packets that were given to you tonight. The first policy is 6141.323. It's an internet acceptable use on filtering, and this is a required policy. The first two paragraphs, we have restructured some. So we are going to ensure that all of our board policies begin with a little bit of an overview around the philosophy for the board's work around that policy. So we have restructured, if you notice the third paragraph down that is struck out, we added some language around the board and its belief in access to modern day technologies. And then began with the Milford Public Schools or the district will provide access to those technologies. The second paragraph and the fourth paragraph are tied together. So the fourth paragraph down that's struck out around computers, computer systems. The paragraph talks about the availability of technology devices, computer systems, electronic access, that they're the property of the district and are used for activities related to teaching, learning, and management of students and staff. And keeping in the language around the technologies not being used for personal gain by any student or staff member. So we took paragraph 3 and 4, reworked those a little bit into paragraphs 1 and 2. So it's kind of a hybrid of those paragraph 3 and 4. Going down towards the bottom of the page where it starts with filtering, in the model policy, the revisions to the model policy, they offered some flexibility to districts to have some options with language. As our policy council reviewed those options, we preferred, as you go on to the top of page 2, the language gets into around what filtering is, how filtering is prevented through district actions as well as professional learning. We felt like as you go down into page 2, it talks about the district's internet access. Users are protected from inappropriate information, and the district will do several actions to support that. First of all, making sure that there's a signed AUP, and in the case of minor students, the parent would also sign that AUP document. Developing a system to filter out internet sites that are unacceptable for student viewing, and continuing to provide professional learning for teachers to integrate internet into classroom teaching. And ending with the caveat around the fact that as much as we try to keep ahead of this, the internet is rapidly changing, and staff, the role of staff in supervising and reporting sites that students have access to that we do not want them to have access to is critical. And then as we go down into the final paragraph, some tweaks to the original policy where it says superintendent of schools, we've changed that to their designee. And to keep the language consistent throughout the policy for the technology devices, we've also kept computer systems, software, electronic access privileges, and networks. And those are the changes to 6141.323, so I'm happy to take any questions on that.
I had 2 questions on page 2 of 3.
Sure.
So under number 1, more for information, do all students have to sign the acceptable use policy, the actual student, like a first grade student is signing that? Or is it strictly
No,
the parent?
the parent
So
can
the word
sign.
also,
Yes.
because most of our students would be minors.
So are you asking to take out must also, or?
Well, in the case of minors, the acceptable use policy must be signed by the student's parent or guardian.
Okay.
Because also implies the student is also signing it, so if they're not. And then in number 2, the word develop seems out of place to me. We say that the district will implement the following. So you're implementing a system to filter out internet sites. I would hope that, with this policy, we have a system, developing a system, so.
Okay, I'll look for a different word there.
I don't know if you need any word there, if you're implementing a system to filter out, because it says at the top, leading into that,
Yep.
the district will implement.
It's what this policy does.
That's what that
Yeah, so strike it.
is. So you just need a system.
And then in the first paragraph that's in black, I did have a question in there
Sure.
when I was reading it. The district recognizes its responsibility to educate students regarding appropriate behavior on social networking and chat room sites about cyberbullying. So does the cyberbullying belong to the behavior or to the social networking and chat room site? I think it's the student's behavior.
Yes, the way I read this, Ms. Glennon, is that it's talking about supporting students in understanding the risks of cyberbullying through things like social media, and I don't really know how much chat room sites are used
Right,
anymore.
so should the words about cyberbullying be up in the first
Yeah.
sentence? The district recognizes its responsibility to educate students about
About
cyberbullying, and, or however you fit that in regarding the and appropriate behavior or whatever. But it seems out of place there.
In regards to social networking and site links,
Yeah, we'll rework that sentence.
that's what it should be.
Any other questions? Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. On the same vein, in 3, implement the following, so provide can take out, so it'll just be professional learning. That's it.
Anything else?
All right, the the third policy this evening for first read is a little bit of a change. So this is the student production of services and materials. It was originally policy 6165. However, as we review this, we realized that it was more about students than it was actual direct classroom instruction. So we're making the recommendation of shifting it to the students section of the policy manual and updating the number from 6165 to 5165. In the general essence of the policy on student production of services and materials, this is a old policy. Its last update was in 1995. We wanted to be explicit around the fact of connecting student experiences inside the classroom to real-world experiences outside the classroom. So we began with a statement that basically denotes that the board believes in access to real-world experiences. And those real-world experiences can sometimes be connected to learning opportunities in the surrounding community. So we've featured opportunities to work with community partners and outside organizations. So we've replaced that second paragraph there that you see struck out in red with the first paragraph. And I think there was some ambiguity in the original version of the policy. And we really wanted to focus in on the production of materials or products that could be developed by students. So we kept in and are adding in if a community partner or outside organization wants to work with students on a service project or other production of materials, they would make a request to the principal or designee, and there would be some conditions that would need to be met. We wanted to make sure that we noted that it would be for a worthy civic purpose, or it can also be the experience extending learning beyond the classroom. It would be in alignment with curriculum outcomes, and the community partner or outside organization would fund the project in full. We didn't want the district or the schools to assume any material costs for a project that they are collaborating on with students in a school. So those bullet points that you see there replace numbers 1 through 5 that extend onto page 2 of the policy. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions on now recommending policy 5165.
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. And this is a confusing policy. Like production of services and materials just seems so weird.
Yeah, it is a weird title.
We agree.
I'm just like, what does that mean? So, couple things in here. Just the product. I'm assuming you, in the first bullet, the product provides a worthy civic purpose. Maybe we had service project or production of materials. I'm trying to think of what production of materials could be. Say, our journalism students could work with a community partner to put out a newsletter or something. That would be a production of material.
Yep,
for
development
them.
of a logo that's been requested.
So I'll give you an example. Purple Pantry reached out and wanted to partner with students on creating a marketing video
Okay.
through some of our tech ed courses. So that's an example of what we're thinking of when we revise this policy.
Great. So just that first bullet, service project or production of materials maybe. And civic purpose, are we just saying something that benefits the community? Is that how we're defining civic purpose?
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Anybody else? This will end up, in the end, will be a very brief policy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the final policy for you for first read this evening is policy 4131. Originally was titled staff development. We've made the request to move the title to professional learning, or rename the policy as professional learning. Just some changes to the language. We have removed professional development and gone with professional learning throughout the policy, so you'll see that noted in several places. The second paragraph, which is in red, talks about the program of professional learning that staff undergo, again, following some of the statutory requirements around no fewer than 18 hours in length, and really getting into some of the core philosophy around professional learning, job embedded, supporting the development of high quality instructional practices, looking to increase student performance, supporting culturally responsive pedagogy and practice, including social emotional learning. As we go down into the bottom of page 1, you'll notice in red, it highlights some of the legislative requirements around the Professional Development and Evaluation Committee, also known as PDEC. In the second paragraph, it talks about some of the duties of that committee, including supporting the teacher evaluation and support program development, the work around supporting the update around the local professional learning plan. And from there, it goes down into some of the legislative requirements, specifically around the learning plan being related to the Board of Education priorities and connected to student educational goals. One of those being around the integration of the principles of social emotional learning as part of professional learning. And then the bullet points get into, number 2 talks about, as we said, social emotional learning. Number 3 looks at supporting administrators with the teacher evaluation professional learning structure. And then lastly, supporting regular and special ed student needs. As we go on to the top of page 2, talks about professional learning, preparing teachers and school personnel to meet the needs of diverse students. From there, looks at some of the professional learning activities that are applicable statutory requirements, and they list those out, including relationships of drugs and alcohol to health, health and mental health risk education, school violence prevention, conflict resolution, CPR and life-saving procedures, mandated reporting, and then some of the work around recognizing and providing supports for structured literacy interventions, as well as the play-based learning for pre-K to 5 teachers. And importantly, it notes that the district will allow for any non-certified educator or para-educator who wishes to participate on a voluntary basis to access any of the training programs available to certified staff. A new section to the policy which came in after 2018 was the professional development related to human trafficking, and this was in line with legislation around Public Act 17-32. And it basically charges the Department of Children and Families to create a video that offers awareness of human trafficking to educators as well as guidance. And then on the top of page 3, we have reworded, you'll notice the second paragraph is struck out, talking about the board's commitment and priority, and we've changed that to be a little more fine-tuned to talking about supporting teaching and learning through the professional learning for educators. And then I will note that in the legal references, we did update the 10-220A. They included some of the public acts that amended that particular general statute. So we've made the change there to that. And I'm happy to take questions on what will hopefully be now named professional learning.
Just to clarify, so this policy contains a lot of legal references to
Yes.
statute, and I get, these are some of the things that teachers would be required to do, for instance, on their beginning of the year, the professional learning days. Is the policy itself required?
This policy is not required.
Do we have questions?
Silly question.
Yes.
On the title for the P4131, it says V2.
So that's version 2, so I
Right.
think that's gonna come out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a different, because this is the second version of the policy that they gave us, the draft. That's what that refers to.
We didn't want, it was mostly for our office to be confused of what copy are we making, so.
Same with one on the page right before it that says 2V.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's gonna come up.
Thanks.
Everybody good with this?
That's all for policy this evening.
So these policies will come back to us at the next business meeting, which is this board's last meeting as a board, the November business meeting for second reading and adoption. Hopefully adoption. Do we have any members of the public who'd like to make public comment this evening? Seeing none, I'll dispense with the public comment, reading the statement. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
If there's no objection, we will adjourn at 9 PM. Thank you, board.
That never happened.
On the dot.